Good evening, everybody. The City of Peabody Zoning Board of Appeals meets tonight in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, and other applicable laws. Tonight's hearing will be conducted in the following manner. The Secretary will read the legal notice or state that such notice has been waived. All applications will be heard in the order they were received in the City Clerk's office or as otherwise designated by the Chair. The petitioner or petitioner's representative will present the subject application to the board. The Chair may limit the length of all remarks. All parties and interests will be given an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition to a pending application, and the board may receive similar written communications to be placed on the public record. The petitioner will then be given the opportunity to refute any such remarks. The decision will be typed and filed with the City Clerk. Once the decision is filed with the City Clerk, there is a 20-day appeal period. In compliance with the open meeting law, this hearing is also being recorded by our clerk. When you're at the podium, please speak directly into the microphone clearly and only speak when at the podium to ensure that you are on the record. Now, what does that mean? That means that we are hearing everything in order tonight, and the Secretary will read your petition, and then you or your builder or your attorney will come up to the podium and state their name and address for the record and tell us why you're here. Remember, you are here for dimensional relief. You're here for a variance. So we're not here to assume that you're going to talk negatively about your neighbors. I know it's hard to hear in the auditorium. We haven't been able to figure that out yet. So I hope you all can hear me and I'm not echoing. So please don't say anything like the dog keeps me up all night and we don't want them to build a deck, or the tree hides the sun and you want them to cut it down, and it sounds silly, but we've heard it all. And we also can't hear assumptions, like you assume that your neighbor is going to do such and such. You're here for dimensional relief. Yes, they're going to build a garage. Yes, they're going to build a deck, and you're either for it or you're against it, and you give us some concrete reasons. If you speak against it, then if your neighbors speak against it, then you can come back up to the podium and you can discuss that or say whatever you want. Let me remind you that the best and most productive variances and the ones that go the quickest are the ones where you have already spoken to your neighbor about whatever they're doing. We have no control if your neighbor doesn't come up to you and tell you what they're doing, but it would, I say this at every meeting, that's really the proper thing to do. While I'm on the subject and I have the microphone and everybody's attention, the past couple of months we've had some problems with storage units. You need a permit to have a storage unit in your backyard, your front yard, or your side yard. Which leads me to also say tonight, if you are questioning yourself, do I need a building permit? If the answer is maybe, I think so, or I don't know, just call the building department, because 9 out of 10 times, if you're doing anything, you might need a building permit. And it's better for you to get the permit correctly and then do what you want to do, because the zoning board really doesn't take too kindly on you building a deck, a garage, or a shed, and then you need a variance, and then you come to us. That's silly. If you're going to build something, call the building department. They'll tell you if you need a permit or not, okay? So once you're at the podium and you've said everything you have to say, and you sit back down, please don't shout out anything from your seat. Raise your hand. You can come back out up here and say whatever you want to say. Then we vote. Yes, you are approved. No, you're not. Once again, not everything can get approved, because if everything got approved, you would not need a zoning board of appeals. So we are very, very fair. I think we're one of the fairest boards in the North Shore, but once again, not everything does get approved. Don't ask for the sun, the moon, and the stars. You're not going to get it. But within reason, we're reasonable. So Hearing all of that, we are now ready to start with number 1, which is a continued application of...
Good evening. Number 1 on tonight's agenda is a continued application of Angel and Mary Fernandez, care of Robert Ziuli, for a variance from the provisions. Oh, it's continued. Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
Come on up.
Yeah, come on up. Number 1, are you here? I see you.
Robert Ziuli, I'm the general contractor for the project at 73 Bartholomew Street.
And I'm gonna cut right into the chase for you, okay? I'm gonna make it very easy for you tonight, okay?
Okay.
So, Mr. Ziuli, you were here in November, and you didn't show in December, which is fine. But at that meeting, we accepted correspondence from Michelle Fitzpatrick and Dan Terenzoni, and we went and made site visits. I will have you tell us why you're here again, but just so you'll know, this is really, really, really easy. You're not even here for a variance. You're here for a modification of the plan so that everything is correct.
Correct.
So, but now I'll have you say it.
Okay, so additionally to the modification of the plan, we're looking for, I guess it's not an additional variance, but a correction or an addition to the variance to move the stairs from inside to outside.
So you don't need a variance for the steps because the stairs on the outside, they're still within all the setbacks and everything you need?
Correct.
So you're here just to make sure that your plans reflect the corrected placement of the stairs.
Correct.
And that's going to be really quick and really easy, and it wouldn't be me if I didn't say to you, the next time you come to any board in any city, just be truthful.
Understood.
So, you're all set. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak for or against? Anybody speak in favor? Anybody to speak not in favor? I can't see. Is there anybody? Okay. I don't believe there's any questions by the board. Hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve the modified plans.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 See, that wasn't so hard, was it? Yes.
Will you notify us of what you need for information in order to have it recorded or whatever?
Yep, you can talk to Carla tomorrow, or City Hall is closed tomorrow. She's got it right there for you. All set?
Thank you.
Welcome. Number 2 is Toscana Forno, care of Attorney Kelty.
Number 2 on tonight's agenda is the application of Toscana Forno, care of Attorney Jack Kelty, for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 11.5.1, as it applies to the premise known as 139 Linfield Street in Peabody, Massachusetts. Petitioner seeks a variance to erect 10 awnings and 4 wall signs, requires relief to 10 awnings where 1 is allowed, 3 lines per awning where 2 is allowed, 4 wall signs where 2 are allowed. The property is located in a GB zoning district.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary and members of the board. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I practice law at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I'm appearing on behalf of Toscana Forno, which is located at 139 Linfield Street. This is the location of the former Stonewood Grill, and Toscana Forno will locate in those same premises. They have completed their build-out. They're actually in a position where they've had a soft opening, and I believe they are open for business. The awnings that are the subject of tonight's hearing are without any writing on them. They are not a zoning violation. The addition of any kind of print or the mention of the name Toscana Forno on these awnings or wall signs put them into our sign ordinance, and we're seeking approval of a total of 10 awnings, 2 over, not 8 of them, which will be located over windows. 2 will be over entries. One of the entry will say fine dining, and the other will be Toscano Forno. They are each allowed without the writing, as I said earlier, and as such, I gave you pictures of what the awnings will look like when installed. We find them to be tasteful and fit into keeping with the premises, and we are hopeful that the board would grant this variance, which was scheduled last meeting, but is now on this evening with the cancellation of the last meeting. And I thank you and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? Anybody to speak not in favor? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, you're all set.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Number 3 is an application for 14 Kosciuszko Street.
Number 3 is an application of Marta and Kenya Rubello for a variance from the provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.1.5, as it applies to the premise known as 14 Kosciuszko Street in Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance for an accessory structure shed that requires relief to accessory structure size where 500 square feet is allowed and 647 square feet is proposed. The property is in an R2 zoning district.
Do we have somebody up here for this?
Hi, good evening. My name is Benio Rebello. Live over at 14 Kosciuszko. And back in April 2020, when COVID hit, I was down and I had nothing to do. Decided to start building a shed. Applied for the permit, everything online. Was going back and forth with the building department. He went over there. He saw there was not far enough from the sideline. I was on over a little bit over 5. Because of my lot was bigger than 13,000 square feet, I had to be 10 feet away from the fence, so I ended up changing everything, move it 10 over. It's 11 feet now. My lot, I believe, looking at this section 7.2, I could cover 35% of the lot. And when Eastern Survey went over there, they did, and they put it down at 16%. That I'm covering my lot, so I'm on an R2.
Okay, well, here's what I have. You applied for your building permit online,
Right.
and you were then asked to submit a certified plot plan. You didn't want to do that.
Right. Because of
Well,
COVID
that's
and-
not, please don't speak. That's not up to you. If the building department says, we want a plot plan, you get a plot plan, just like everybody else. Well, you didn't want to do that. Okay. It says here that you told the building department, I'm not hiring a surveyor or a company for a storage shed. Once again, that could be what you're feeling, but that's not correctly what happens. So They gave you your setbacks, okay, fine. And then you built a shed without a permit, and you were over the allotted square footage, and you were in disregard to this. You also put in electricity with not a permit. You also put in plumbing without a permit. You now have heat, AC. You built a trench for your electrical work, all of which requires an electrical permit, which you didn't have. Do you want to say anything about that yet?
I don't have the plumbing there.
You don't have plumbing?
No.
Excuse me. So you have HVAC, that requires a plumbing permit. Okay. So your shed is over the allotted size. You built without a permit. It's now habitable space, which is not allowed. And I was under the impression when I did a little researching that you're not even the homeowner.
No.
You're not the homeowner.
My wife is.
Okay, but that's not you. So all of this is grossly wrong. Everything you did was wrong, wrong, wrong. And let me just say, to completely disregard what the building department asked you and required you to do, and you decided not to do it, my feeling is that I'm not going to vote for you to get a variance that you're asking for this evening, and I'm also going to ask the board to, with the advice of the whole building department, to remove the entire shed, get a building permit to remove the shed, and then get a building permit to build this correctly, and get every permit, every licensed plumber, electrician, whatever you need to do it correctly. My feeling, we'll see if there's anybody else on the board that wants to chime in, or if you have any neighbors here that would like to speak for or in opposition.
Yeah, just through the chair. It was also, looks like it was discussed that this was just going to be a storage shed, and you just used those words, but it's actually an accessory dwelling, which is something we don't allow, and especially when you know you're supposed to get a permit. Looks like you have another accessory structure out there, too. Are there two sheds out there?
No, it's a garage. That
That's a
has
garage.
been there ever since the house was built.
Okay, that's a second accessory structure, which we don't allow, too. So I agree with the chair. I don't know if anyone else has anything to say.
Chris?
I agree, Madam Chair, that, far from a shed, we have beer taps, we have electricity, we have all kinds of stuff that is far from a shed. There's landlords, there's homeowners in this city that do the right thing, that spend the money, that spend the time to do it properly. And as you said in the onset of tonight's meeting, just a simple phone call to the building department to say, hey, I want to build a shed, clearly not a shed. Building department shows up, no regard of their authority. I am not going to support this. And my opinion is move it somewhere where it's accepted or take it down.
Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience to speak in opposition? You have to move a little bit.
Good evening, board members. For the record, I'm Julie Daigle, 21 Fay Avenue in Peabody. I'm also the Ward 4 counselor speaking to represent a lot of the abutters who were either uncomfortable coming to speak or unable to. And I don't want to necessarily say that we're speaking against. Everyone wants to be good neighbors and live harmoniously, but we do have concerns with the shed. I know that's what's before us, but tonight, and that's in your purview, the bigger picture is that the building commissioner or the building department was not allowed on the property, so this was brought to court, and the judge ordered that the first thing that they should do was deal with the fact that the shed doesn't meet the setbacks that are allowed through you, and they needed a variance and didn't get that. So I just want to say the concerns from the neighbors are, we just want to make sure, we want to live harmoniously together, and there are some concerns from the neighbors of a shed that's bigger than what's allowed, having a TV and having a porta potty, which I guess there's no jurisdiction in the city that prohibits that, but it is within, the yard, and having chickens on the property, that's the Board of Health. But I think the neighbors are just very concerned with the ability to follow and comply with permits and laws within the city and make sure that that we're following the right protocols and getting permits for a split that's in a unit. Neighbors are concerned. They expressed to me that there might be someone living there. There's no evidence of that, but we just want to make sure everything's done properly so that way it's all safe and well. So thank you for your time.
To speak in opposition or in favor? Could you come up, please?
My name is Michael Ricketts, 11A Kosciuszko Street, directly across from 14 Kosciuszko Street. The shed was put up, I think about a year before that. And it wasn't a problem until someone started calling the officers on the gentleman having a party next door. And proceeding from that, that's when the building department came out. So I have it on my ring camera. And they came out, started looking. They were looking through the fence. They couldn't get inside.
And you do know that's their job.
Yeah, but like I said, they were called out, right? That's fine. But I knew there's an individual that's pretty had it in for the gentleman. Yes, he didn't have the variance and whatever.
That's your opinion. We're not here for that, sir. I made that perfectly clear.
Okay, all right. But unless the building part went on there, that's what I found about chickens and all other stuff, you know what I mean? So it's all this little petty stuff. Yeah, I know, but this involvement, they just mentioned the chickens and all this stuff. I mean, but I had no problem with him building it. Like I said, he put in for the thing, they cashed the check or whatever, and all this stuff, but he never got the okay. What he did, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying is, I have no problem against it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay?
However, the building department and the zoning board of appeals has a big problem. So hearing no other people that would like to speak on this, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public meeting.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Who conditions taking it down? Can we condition? I want it conditioned to taken down or removed and then rebuilt, if so, with proper permits.
Okay. So this will be a motion to either approve or deny, conditional upon the shed being removed with the proper building permits, and then if chosen to be reconstructed with all proper permits and all proper variances applied for.
So we're going to approve or deny the variance, and then whatever happens in that condition will just be written in. So we're going to, the motion is to approve the variance. Roll call vote.
No.
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 No. So you have been denied, and if you so desire, you go to the building department and get a permit to take it down, but at any rate, that has to be removed. And I would suggest that you call the building department tomorrow to find all the steps. Or they're closed tomorrow. City Hall is closed tomorrow because of the storm, so call Wednesday. Number 4.
Number 4 is an application of Richard and Angela Keithan for a variance from the provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 5 Albert Road in Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance to build a deck and requires relief to side yard where 20 feet is required, 9.8 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1B zoning district.
I'm Britt Kaiton. I live at 5 Albert Road in Peabody, and I'm the homeowner. Sorry, did you get all that, though? So we are proposing to build a deck. This will be replacing what was a stairwell going up to the side entrance to the house. We had to tear down the stairway that was going up last summer when we were finishing our basement. The concrete slab that the stairway was upon was angled towards the house, which was causing water to get into the basement. So that was why we had to tear it down. As part of replacing that stairway, we are expanding it to make the deck a more usable space, as sort of like a sitting, eating area for spring, summer, and fall. And currently the proposed deck comes about half a foot closer to the property line than the existing house does. So to the point, that's it.
And it says here that you already went to conservation,
Yes,
and you got their approval?
correct.
I actually know this plot. I'm up the street from it. It's one of the most hardship-shaped plots in the city. So, I mean, I'm all for it. So,
Any other questions, or comments, concerns? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience to speak in opposition? Hearing none, the matters before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing? Motion to approve?
Roll call vote?
yes.
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 Yes, you're approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 5, 13 Heath Road.
Number 5 is an application of Anthony Caponelli for a variance from the provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 13 Heath Road in Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance to construct an addition and requires relief to corner lot yard setback where 25 feet is required and 14 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1 zoning district.
How you doing? My name is Anthony Carpinelli. I'm the homeowner at 13 Heath Road. So we're looking to do a single level addition on the side of the home. And I spoke with, some of the neighbors and stuff about how they felt about that, and they preferred that as opposed to a second level on the home. The issue on the right side of the property is there's not enough room to do an addition on that side. Whereas if we did the left corner of the property and kind of maximize the frontage there, the variance would only be on the left side towards Green Road. So I spoke to the abutters there, and they had no issue with that. So that's what we're looking to get.
Questions by the board? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board. Oh, we have a
Sorry,
question.
I do have one question. Do you have any plans in the future to go up?
No.
Okay.
Trying to avoid the stairs.
Right, because that would be one concern we have. If we give you a variance further out for one floor and then also you decide, hey, we're going to come back to go up, I wouldn't expect to receive that, okay?
Yeah, so that came up from some of the abutters as well, and I told them that not to worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the reason for wanting to go out. It was either up or out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Roll call vote.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call vote now.
Yes.
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 Yes, you're approved. Thank you. You're welcome. 190 Newbury Street.
Are we,
Looks like the Old Latitude Boston Sports Club is next.
6?
What?
Number 6?
Oh, sorry. 2 Hilltop Drive.
There it is. Number 6 is an application of Michael and Nicole DeAngelis for a variance from provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 2 Hilltop Drive in Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance to build an addition and requires relief to corner lot side yard where 15 feet is required and 5 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1A zoning district.
Good evening. My name is Nicole DeAngelis. I'm the homeowner, and we're looking to add on a small addition to the back left-hand corner of our house to provide some additional storage space and access to the yard. My parents moved in with us about a year and a half ago, and storage within the house is pretty limited, and this will help us to get a little extra living space within the area that we have.
Did you speak to your neighbors?
Sorry, yes, I did speak to our neighbors. I actually finally caught up with our abutting neighbor on that side this evening. He hasn't been around much, so I did speak with him, and he had no opposition to us doing it, as well as most of the other neighbors that are right in that area.
Through the chair, I went and visited this property several weeks back, met with Nicole. She's got an interesting lot. It's right on Andover Street. It's really extended out. We talked about, the neighbors and all that. She did present some letters to us. No disrespect, Nicole, but I agree you need some storage. Yep, and I'm all in favor.
Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, you're approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now we're at latitude.
All right, number 7 is an application from SCFRC Funding for LLC for a variance from the provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 11.5.2, as it applies to the premise known as 190 Newbury Street in Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance to erect a wall sign that requires relief to where size allowed is 75 square feet and 300 square feet is proposed. Property is located in a BR1 zoning district. How you doing?
Now it is. Michael Privatera, the sign contractor for Choice Fitness. Well, basically they rebranded. They bought 4 Boston sports clubs, and this is the last one to rebrand the name. And we're basically putting up a new sign that's square footage-wise almost 200 square foot smaller than the existing Boston Sports Club sign. Just because of their logos lends itself to that size, 300 square feet.
Yeah, it's a big
We've
building.
already taken down the BSC on the building just because they needed to get rid of it.
It's a big building, and it's on Route 1, but what's the name of it?
Choice Fitness Elite.
Choice Fitness Elite.
Yes. Sports club.
No problems. I mean, I'm always in favor of good signage for traffic, especially on Route 1, so people can see it. So.
Does it get lit up at all?
Pardon me?
Does it get lit up?
Yes, it's internally illuminated with LEDs.
Is the club 24 hours?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I honestly don't know.
Okay, anybody to speak in favor? Anybody to speak in opposition? The matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second. Yes.
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 Yes, you're all set?
All right, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Number 8 is an application of Dina Howcroft and Richard Garolaman, trustees, care of attorney John Kelty, for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 30 Swampscott Avenue in Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance to move lot line shared by 30 and 32 Swampscott Ave and requires relief to minimum lot dimensions required where Lot A requires 5,000 square feet and 4,793 square feet is proposed. Lot B requires 7,500 square feet and 4,086 square feet is proposed. Property is located in an R2 zoning district.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is John Kelty. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Mass., and I appear on behalf of Dina Howcroft and Richard F. Gerolman, who are brother and sister and are the current owners of both of these properties. In its simplest form, this is an exchange of a parcel of land that lies between the two properties. I know that we do not accept late ads. However, I do have that exact plan that you're holding in your hands this evening, and I have a section of it colored in yellow, which helps you. It is parcel C that is colored in yellow and would help you. That's okay. Then. So we are taking a certain amount of property, 1,700 or so square feet is being removed from the two-family house, which was non-conforming, never was 7,500 square feet, and being added to the single-family lot. And the single-family lot will now be in excess of its square footage requirement. But in any event, we are asking to exchange this parcel of land that is located between a two-family and a one-family and add it to the single-family.
And this has already been approved by the planning board, I was told.
Yeah.
The planning board did sign the plan, but at the bottom they said this our signature does not imply or make a determination of zoning, and so we subsequently came back to this board for zoning relief.
In the audience to speak in favor or in opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Yes.
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 We are so efficient. Yes, you are
Thank you very
approved.
much.
Doing well.
Number 9.
Number 9 is the application of Yorkshire Associates LLC, care of attorney Kimberly Croha, from the provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 15.6.2, as it applies to the premise known as 25 Farm Ave in Peabody. Petitioner seeks an administrative appeal from the building commissioner's determination to issue and enforcement action for J.D. Raymond Transport, Inc. The property is located in a DDD zoning district.
Good evening. Kim Crowa on behalf of J.D. Raymond Transport, Inc., which is a tenant occupant of 25 Farm Ave, Peabody, owned by Yorkshire Associates. The board is very familiar with this property. As you all recall, we were here in 2022 in response to the abutting owner's appeal from the former building inspector's decision not to take zoning enforcement action against J.D. Raymond's operation at 25 Farm Avenue, which decision was based on efforts by J.D. Raymond to obtain Conservation Commission approval of its stormwater system. This board decided in December to reverse that prior building commissioner's decision and to issue a written decision directing the interim building commissioner acting as the zoning enforcement officer to issue a cease and desist. The following day, the cease and desist issued, and this appeal is based on an appeal from that, which we filed to perfect our rights. We also did appeal the written decision by this board, and that is pending in the land court. And that case is going forward with the city's involvement and the abutters' involvement. It was set forth in the land court complaint and in my letter to the board that I sent in connection with this appeal on January 12th. There are no zoning violations that justify the cease and desist that was issued by the zoning enforcement officer. I understand there was a lot of discussion about it in the prior hearing. But just talking about the actual zoning for the property, there's two reasons why there's not actually a zoning issue that would call for a cease and desist order. The business has been in operation for 20 years. It's a lawful, non-conforming pre-existing use. There was a special permit requirement put in 2013, but it's J.D. Raymond's position that the property does fall under the prior non-conforming use or the agricultural exception of the zoning ordinances, specifically the horticultural portion of that. I know the abutter did submit a letter after mine in which they talk about how this is something different because we're not growing plants on the site, but this is a processing of plants and changing the crops into something that's used for gardening, and it is something that falls either under the prior allowed uses or under that horticultural exception. In addition to that, the city has been using the property for the use for the 20 years and bringing its wood products to the site for processing by J.D. Raymond. So I understand the board has looked at this. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I am here tonight on the appeal asking the board to overturn the cease and desist that was issued. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wanting to speak on this matter? Attorney Panos?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jason Panos, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, representing Farm Avenue Two Lots LLC as trustee of Farm Avenue Two Lots Realty Trust and the residences of Farm Avenue LLC being the adjacent property owner at 27R Farm Avenue and 0 Forest Street. To get this out of the way, nothing I say here tonight is to be construed as any agreement by Two Lots or the residences or any waiver of rights by any of them to object to any J.D. Raymond filings in the future with any federal, state, or municipal board, commission, office, or bureau attempting compliance with any applicable law. Two Lots and the residences reserve all rights at law and in equity to pursue any and all appeals they respectively deem appropriate to protect their respective interests. Now that that's out of the way, really,
We'd appreciate it if everybody could be quiet, please.
Sure. Now that that's out of the way, this is a really simple matter before the board. What J.D. Raymond is attempting is a second bite at the apple to appeal that which this board already pretty clearly decided on December 19th and issued its written decision on December 20th, pursuant to which the building commissioner, the acting building commissioner, issued the cease and desist. You can't divorce one from the other. They are inextricably linked. To do as J.D. Raymond requests in this appeal as a result would result in the board's reversal of that December 20th decision without any change in arguments, facts, or circumstances. Nothing's changed. Therefore, I ask the board to vote yes to uphold the building commissioner's December 21, 2022 order consistent with the board's December 20th, 2022 decision. J.D. Raymond's appeal is simply a rehash of the very same arguments it put forth against the board's issuance of its decision, offering nothing new, and you just heard a summary of it. And if what Attorney Croha indicated or presented sounded familiar, you heard it all before in their letter to this board of July 1st, 2022, in which they advanced the very same arguments and announced to you that they had no intention of coming into compliance with the provisions of the zoning ordinance, even when the then building commissioner told them unequivocally that they were acting in violation of the zoning ordinance and would need a special permit. And they came here tonight to tell you exactly that they have no intention of coming into compliance with the zoning ordinance because they feel they're a protected non-conforming use, and they come under some horticultural exception. That's I'm trying to be restrained. You've heard it before. We obviously responded then through our July 8th, 2022 correspondence to the board, as we respond now that they are in violation of the zoning ordinance, despite the presentation they gave this evening, which is an extension of what they told you on July 1st, in August, in September, in October, in November, and then again in December. As further evidence that J.D. Raymond has no intention of coming into compliance with the zoning ordinance, they filed an appeal of the board's December 20th, 22 decision with the land court, reasserting these very same, in my opinion, stale arguments, even though through counsel they have told you since last year they intend to file an application for special permit. Actions or lack thereof speak louder than words. All they have done is obfuscate, stonewall, and delay with no application for special permit forthcoming in the foreseeable future, but only appeals. Appeals to court, appeals to you, appeals to anyone who will basically listen to them. This matter has effectively been before this board since June of last year, and all J.D. Raymond is doing is trying to put off the inevitable, which is being shut down because it will not come into compliance with the zoning ordinance. It's that simple. The board is busy. We're number 9 on the agenda. You have a full agenda with a lot of other matters, and the board should put an end to this. Get it off your agenda. Reject J.D. Raymond's stale arguments, as you did before, by the way, and vote to uphold the acting building commissioner's December 21st, 2022 order, which was made pursuant to this board's December 20th, 2022 decision. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I have nothing further to say.
Discussions?
Through the chair. Oh, sorry.
Oh, in a minute, in a minute.
My opinion has not changed from last time. So just for the record, I'll just revert back to the statement that I made at the last hearing. My opinions haven't changed, and I have no intention of voting to overturn the cease and desist or a prior decision.
And that would be a what vote?
Which I believe would be a no vote to uphold, a no vote on the appeal.
Anybody in the audience to speak? Would you like to speak, sir?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Name and address for the record.
My name is Ted Deniski. I'm a lifelong citizen of Peabody. Born in Peabody, have a business in Peabody. I do business with J.B. Raymond. And I hate to see somebody bashed. Before J.B. Raymond came there, the Perry family, who lived up on 128, had some pigs and cattle in there. It was a mess. It was wasteland in there. J.B. Raymond come along, put the yard there, and over the years, they've made it better and better. So that whole area has changed. A lot got to do with what J.B. Raymond has done in there. And I hate to see somebody bash somebody that badly.
Okay, we're not here for bashing, but I get what you're trying to say. I get it.
You know, maybe they have, I've go in the yard weekly over the years. I've been there before they were there. I go in there weekly to pick up stuff.
I think we get what you're going to say.
But
we get it.
They now they want, it's good enough that they want to put apartments, so they've been, I don't know if that's been denied or where that's going, but that whole area is better because of J.B. Raymond being there and what they've done. That's basically what I want to say.
That's wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak? Thank you. Anybody else?
Just through the chair, if I could. I'm going to stick with my vote, but only for the reasons that I think this board has been more than fair in giving J.D. Raymond enough time to do basically what they said they were going to do, okay? I don't blame them for doing an appeal. I certainly want them to exercise every avenue that they can for doing what they feel is the right thing to do for their business. But to me, it always goes back to that letter from the building inspector who said they needed a special permit. And he chose not to enforce it. He was going to enforce it the way he chose fit to enforce it. Unfortunately, he's no longer the building inspector. So we really had, from that point on, I had no guidance as to how he intended to enforce that need for the special permit. So I had no choice but to say, listen to what J.D. Raymond had to say, and they were all doubt. We're just waiting for that decision from the Conservation Commission. We're just waiting. We're going to do it January, February, March. Well, it never came. It never came. So I think we had no choice but to, let's bring this thing to a head. And I think the board made the right decision to issue that cease and desist. It's probably where it should be if it's going to go this far into land court. You know, let the judge decide. Maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong. But we had to do something, so I'm going to uphold my vote and not uphold the cease and desist, not to overturn it. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else to speak? Matters before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All right, so this is going to be a motion for, I believe it would be a no vote on the appeal, which would uphold our prior decision in order to issue a cease and desist. We're voting no to the appeal and upholding our prior decision to cease and desist.
Second.
Roll call vote.
No.
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 No. Well, that ends that. Number 10, Wesley, Merrill, and Linda on 48 Pulaski Street.
Number 10 is the application of Linda and Wesley Merrill for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 48 Pulaski Street in Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance to divide a parcel of land into 2 lots and construct a single-family dwelling. It requires relief from Lot 1, right side, yard in feet of 10 plus minus feet, frontage of 60 feet, a lot width of 30 feet, and an area of 7,200 square feet. Lot 2 conforms in all respects to the zoning ordinance. The property is located in an R1A zoning district.
Go ahead. All right. Well, good evening, and for the record, my name's Ethan Bonzalidis. I'm an attorney practicing law at 246 Andover Street in Peabody. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner with respect to their application, and with me this evening is Mr. Wes Merrill. The petitioner's parents purchased a large parcel of land on Pulaski Street way back in 1953. They later divided that parcel into 4 lots, as shown on the assessor's map, a copy of which I believe I submitted with our application. 3 of those lots have been conveyed out over the last several decades. What remains now is the last lot, which consists of a large parcel of land that contains approximately 1.5 acres, and it's been in the petitioner's family now for approximately 70 years. Now, this lot at one time was a legally existing non-conforming lot. However, in 1983, there was a zoning amendment, and our lot was held in common ownership with one of the abutting lots, so it's lost that protection. As you can see from our site plan and the assessor's plan, the unique shape of this lot along with the significant wetlands, basically makes it impossible to construct anything on this parcel without some form of variance relief, which creates a substantial hardship to the petitioner. As set forth in the application, the petitioner is proposing to divide the 1.5 acres into 2 lots. As for Lot 2, it's going to remain vacant and unbuildable due to a variety of issues, wetlands and the fact that Old County Way is a paper street and not constructed. But as for Lot 1, it was created to be in conformance with the size and the square footage and the frontage of the other 3 lots from which it was originated. As for the proposed dwelling, it will have a foundation footprint of only 870 square feet. It would be a 2-story dwelling. It would contain approximately 1,700 square feet of living area. As you can see from our plan, the proposed home can be constructed to be in conformance with all the dimensional setbacks, meaning the front yard, the rear yard, and the side yards. We did ask for a right side yard variance of 10 feet versus 15, but we can provide the 15 feet if the board so desires. I believe that the size of proposed Lot 1, along with the size of the proposed dwelling, is in keeping with the design of the surrounding property so as not to adversely impact anybody. The petitioner's sister, Kathleen Stabile, along with the petitioner, grew up at 46 Pulaski Street. She now lives in Texas, but her daughter, her grandchildren, and her brother are still in the North Shore area. She would like to move back to Peabody to be closer to her immediate family, and if granted the variance, she would be constructing her new home on Lot 1. As I stated earlier, I do have Mr. Merrill with me here this evening, and together we'll try to answer any questions that either the board or the public may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Bonzilides. Well, I have one. This looks fine. However, this Old County Way is wetland. It can never be a real street. Therefore, Lot 2 becomes a pork chop lot, or it becomes something that I don't know how anyone can get to it, build on it. So I'm going to ask you, for my personal opinion, that we can divide this into 1 lot, grant the variance, but a revised plan is needed to just reflect on Lot 1, not Lot 2. Not Lot 2 is not going to exist.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I hate Lot 2. All right, it's a stupid lot. It's meaningless. It can never really be built on. Our surveyor wanted to create Lot 1 so it's in conformance with those other 3 lots that abut it, with the hopes that maybe one day Lot 2 might be buildable. But, that's a pipe dream.
Well, pipe dream or not, we'll let in another 40 or 70 years somebody else worry about it. But
My client really doesn't want 2 lots, but it was a plan. I had to run with it. I was under a filing deadline. If the board would consider granting the variance, it should be with a condition that Lot 2 become part of Lot 1, and that a revised plan be submitted to the board to become the plan of record.
Can the only issue with that is that when I write the decision, I have to say what the plot, I have to use the plot plan in my decision. So can you get that, and then I can write the decision?
We're good? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Do you understand what we just said? Sir, why don't you come up?
Hi, my name is Jose Espinola. I live at 46 Pulaski Street, which used to be Wesley's parents' house. We stood...
So you live next door to...
To that lot.
To that lot.
Actually, my property attaches to the lot.
Okay, so do you want to speak on the lot, or do you want to speak on all the land in the back?
Actually, in the whole thing properly. I want to get an idea what the house is, because...
Okay, but did you understand what we just said to the attorney about about Lot 2?
I did not.
Are you familiar with what this looks like?
Yes.
Okay, so there's not going to be a Lot 2. So they'll never be able to, as far as, I can't say never, but for however long this happens, they won't be able to build at Lot
Correct.
2. It's
We
not a
stood in the
lot.
meeting about, I would say, close to 16 years ago.
Okay,
And it was denied because it was concerned as a wetland.
right.
Right
So-
where they want to build a house, there's a well there. And they got, I would say probably from the sidewalk to inside the property about a good 25 feet. And then it drops 3 feet down. And every time it rains, my property itself, one of the corners of the property, I got this much water on it. So much that I used to have mulch around my property line around the fence, and I had to build with gravel. And every time it rains heavy, I got a good 4 inches of rain on top of that gravel. My concern is when I bought the house, I spent the good money to get the water off my basement. Now, we're going to build something there, block the wall. Where's that water going to go?
Attorney Gonzalez, can you speak to that at all? To his water problem, when and if you build?
I'm not an engineer, but I've never seen one single-family dwelling create a major water problem for any abutting properties when they're most evenly on the same elevations. The house is only going to be set back 20 feet from the road. We're not in the wetlands. Chris Mello marked them. All the wetlands are what we showed as Lot 2. And this dwelling is going to be the exact same dimensions and side yards as the other 3 that abut it.
Do you have any plans to regrade that lot?
I do not.
Okay. So, no.
It's a pretty, I've got pictures, I know, I can show you on the phone. It's a pretty flat lot.
Benola, did you have anything else you wanted to add while the board deliberates? Because I can't see him. Is he all set?
Anything else?
You have anything else?
That was just my main concern. I mean, it's been, I'm sorry. I know we are, like I said before, we stood in front of a board and they denied it. And that was all because of that water situation, because across the street, there's another house, and every time it rains, there's like, I want to say a Greek coming from underneath. And my neighbor, Lola, which is right there, she gets water in her basement. And if you look across, right beyond my fence, you see all that water comes out of there.
Well, probably, if they build a house here, this house is going to get water too. Maybe they'll take the water from your house, it'll go into the new house.
I don't think so. I think they're going to build a foundation, the water's going to come into my house, or to my property. Because I know for a fact, if they build a house there, my backyard is going to become a pool.
So through the chair, normally this would be a situation maybe we'd ask for like some kind of like dry well or some kind of drainage system. But I'm just looking, Mr. Espinola, at the topography. They have the lines showing the different elevations and grades. And if I'm looking at it correctly, the front of both of these properties starts at about 62. Then it drops to 60, then it drops to 58, heading towards this proposed lot.
It all drains to the
off
wetlands.
of your property. So it seems like there's going to be a natural drainage that way anyways, based upon the elevations we see here. So I'm not sure, even if they put a drain in or did something to add some kind of flood mitigation, I don't think it's going to do anything because it's going to drain, it's going to flood anyways, and it's going to all drain towards their lot. If they were above you, I would look at it a little bit differently. Like if their lot was at 66, let's say, and you were at 62, then yeah, I could see that draining into you.
Right.
But whereas your lot is at 60 and 62 and theirs goes down to 58,
Right.
I kind of see it going that way there. That's just kind of what I'm looking at here. On the
All right.
plan.
And then the other
Yeah.
concern, I mean, my other concern is I overheard they're going to do it 2 stories.
We'll ask that. We can ask that right now.
Yeah, because mine's one-story house. I mean, they built a two-story house. There goes all my privacy. My house would be worthless.
Okay, so let's see if we can figure that out.
Are all the other houses one story?
Yes, my neighbors and the one over. Pinto is the only one that went up, but he's like 2 lots over.
So,
It would be a two-story dwelling. Our dwelling to the right is probably 2.5 because it's a multiple family. And many of the homes in that area are small 2 stories.
okay. Sure.
My name's Ted Deniski. I already said I'm a lifelong resident. Live on Buxton Lane, which is adjacent to Pulaski Street. This land where they're talking to build a house, there is no building lot there. You got the room, but there's a ditch. It came from years. There's a ditch, comes from the corner of Pulaski Street. The water comes across. There was a pond over across the street, Pulaski Street. The water comes across there, and it flows across Old County Road, and it goes into, I think it eventually goes to the river because A.C. Lawrence, when they were there, had a bunch of drainage. Goes into that complex, the factories there. There's a dug well right where where I think they want to put this house. The gentleman that was just talking here lives in the house where Merrill grew up. That was their family house. Their father built Lola's house, who was here. No, but anyway, he would have probably built more if there were buildable lots left. If you go there and look, there's a willow tree. It's only 50 feet going in wide, going in from the street next to that gentleman's house. I own the land on the other side, right, adjacent to that. My land goes uphill to Buxton Lane. If that land was to be used, I should get together with I'm not proposing this, but then it could all be used together. But to put a house where he's proposing and block it off, there's no room there. It's only a 50-way in, and it slopes from the street all the way back. There's a dug well there, there's a willow tree there, and it's all wet. I grew up there, took care of cows there. The cows are still going that land, and it's not because I want the cows to go there, but whoever gets this new house, they're going to say, oh, but the other people happen to be happy with it. But the cows go in there. No, but when they walk in there, they go up to their knees, sinking in.
Okay.
And the other side's high. It's just really no place to build a house.
Okay.
He was here 2 years ago, not 2 years, maybe 10 years ago, and he got refused.
Okay,
And it's just not right. It's not right to the other neighbors.
Okay. Thank you.
Through the chair, maybe we should look at the prior decision, if we can find it.
Prior decision?
I submitted it with the application, but if the board remembers, Chris put together a 3-lot subdivision showing a roadway going into the back parcel being Lot 2. It would have been all through the wetlands, and that was the big issue.
All right, wait, give us a minute.
Sure. I know it was a long time ago, but if the board remembers, Chris designed a plan where the roadway would be coming through Lot 1, and then all of Lot 2 was, he created 3 lots. Yeah, and it just became a disaster. Here, we're not going to touch Lot 2 or the wetlands.
Anybody else to speak? The matter is now before the board.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I'll make a motion to approve, but it will be conditional upon providing Ms. McGrath the plans to show that Lot 2 will no longer be Lot 2. This will be one continuous lot.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it passes.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Number 11.
Number 11 is an application of Hoyle Construction, Inc. for a variance from the provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 68 Prospect Street in Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance to construct decks on unit numbers 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14. Requires relief from side yard setback where 20 feet is required and 10 feet. 13 feet, 14 feet, and 9 feet are proposed respectively. The property is located in a BR zoning district.
Thank you. For the record, my name is John Kelty. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I appear on behalf of Kevin Hoyle and Hoyle Construction, Inc. My client Kevin Hoyle had appeared before this board some time ago. We obtained approvals from the Peabody City Council of a special permit. We obtained a variance from this board for 2 of the corners of the property. During this entire process, we have been in close contact with our neighbors who live in single-family homes on Emery Street, which is to the north of us. That would be between our parcel of land that is currently under development and under construction and Route 114. That's the northerly side of the property. We had proposed no decks on that side of the property. I had the good fortune to be here last Tuesday, the 21st, or on the 22nd, at which time our neighbors from Emery Street were reviewing the plan with Ward Councilor Julie Daigle, and we were able to then also put Kevin Hoyle directly in contact with our neighbors. And in fact, my client Kevin called this evening and said that Janice and the other neighbors who were expecting to be here were not going to be here and had no particular questions, unless perhaps our ward councilor has some kind of a question or condition that she'd like to see applied. We are hopeful that the board will grant the variance. It'll allow us to extend decks into those particular areas where the neighboring property, which is Avalon Apartments, where that particular property has a curvature resulting in a curvature of our property, and it is the units at 8, 9, 10, 1 and 13 and 14 that become, we come to this board to seek variances for. The advertisement and the denial letter call out for the board's convenience, call out the side yard, the unit number, and our proposal, which is 10, 10, 15, 13, and 9 feet, all as set forth in the ad. And we're happy to answer questions that the board may have this evening.
Okay, here we go. So, right off the bat, we need units labeled 1 to 32. You've got them labeled 1 to 6. I thought there was something going here. I don't see anything.
Yes.
You've got buildings 1 through 5. The dimensions of the decks, we don't have the dimensions of the decks. Setbacks of the patios. We need to identify what's a deck, what's a patio. This has to be redone. I don't understand anything on this. I thought there were trees here. All conditions should be on the plot plan, and they aren't.
That plan was given specifically for this purpose, to be able to demonstrate where and why we needed these deck variances. It's not a site plan. It was not intended to be a site plan. There's been no change in where trees were shown originally and where we're proposing them now. And your question with respect to where are the rest of the buildings, that's the only one that's under construction. Well, that's the only one that is calling out the requirement for a variance. And so that's why this plan that was filed with you for this evening's hearing is sparse with respect to information about the entire site.
Okay, but I don't see, you have patio, you have squares. I don't know what's a patio. I don't know what's a deck. Personally, it has to be redone. You have to reflect this. Identify what's a deck, what's a patio, what are the dimensions of each. It's not up for guessing.
That plan shows.
And we had to put in the numbers, 7 to 14. Are these going to be built? Are they not going to be built? What's the footage from here to here, from here to here? I'm sorry, Attorney Kelty, but I need to have it redone. I need all the information.
I got a couple of questions, too.
Go ahead, Keith.
So in looking at this plan, does every unit have an existing patio and only several are going to get decks
Yes.
built onto those
Yes.
patios?
But which ones?
Right, I understand that.
Which ones?
Did you mention, too, in your statement that when these were built, there was a condition in which no decks would be constructed?
No, we had agreed with no, there was not a condition.
All right.
We
Was
had
it an
agreed
agreement?
no decks on that side with those folks. And then when these became developed, they all have patios because and the decks are elevated, and the patios are on the ground. The patios are not structures that require, that would be encroaching into the side yard, and as such, we called out the decks and unit numbers in conjunction with Ms. McGrath, so that we identified the side yard for units 8, 9, 10, 11, I'm sorry, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14. Those are, I believe, circled in grid. Is that your circling that was done?
That's mine.
Yep. But those are the decks, and we have called out the proposed side yard for those, which are the side yard for Unit 8's deck is 10 feet rather than 20. So I think that the information that, we have supplied is at least sufficient for discussion of where these decks are and where we are encroaching. And I think that when viewed in conjunction with the site plan, we're not suggesting that we're going to change the location of the buildings in general, but are seeking variances for these 5 decks. 5 decks.
I just don't think there's enough information. In general,
But-
yes, no,
But
decks,
if
patios.
if I were to try to comply with giving you exactly what you would like, what is it that you need?
Oh, okay, so are these going to be, are these 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that we had to write in, are those going to be numbered? Are these decks, are they patios? What is the setback here? What else? I don't, am I stupid tonight?
Yeah.
Jack Kelty, did you say yes?
No, I said.
Yeah, you did. I said, am I stupid tonight? And you said, yeah.
I wasn't responding to your question.
You better not have, honey.
No, I wasn't responding to. I was trying to get behind you to see if the distance was called out, and it was at that moment I looked and saw yes, they are called out. So
You got yourself out of that one.
Well, I'm trying. Sometimes it's a big job. But I think we've already called out all the information and that's what the denial letter resulted in, showing that our side yards for Unit 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14 are 10, 10, 15, 13, and 9.
Can I also ask why they're only asking to construct decks over certain patios and not all of them?
Some of the decks on that side of the building, some of those will not trigger variance.
Gotcha.
And yes.
This area here,
Yeah, there's another whole structure.
is there a reason why you didn't put it in?
Pardon?
Is there a reason why you didn't put that in here?
I didn't draw the plan that was drawn by Mr. Mello, and Mr. Mello gave us a plan that depicted that which he felt demonstrated our request for variance most efficiently. So yes, that whole side is still being constructed and under construction. That was the side that our neighbors on Emory had concerns about. Were we proposing these decks on their side? And the answer to that question is no.
So what is, or which units have, all these units have patios and some of them have decks?
I believe each unit will have a patio, and the reason for that is that their walkout at that level, that first floor level, where there are garages in the front side facing Emory, you walk out at a grade, and that'll have a patio, and then above some of the units, there are decks. And so my patio is here, the deck is just to my right, and as we get to that westerly corner of the property, because of the curvature of our lot line, those begin to require variances. These would, if we were in a single-family zoning district and this was not a commercial multifamily, would have the ability to encroach, that 30% rule would apply, but it doesn't to the commercial properties.
So I think the reason it looks disjointed is he only needs relief for the ones on the units that he's attached to his advertisement. The other ones are by right, so he doesn't need our permission for them. So that's what the confusion is. But I think I get it. I get it now, right? So, okay.
And through the chair, I think part of the confusion too, Attorney Kelty, is that When we look at the larger plan that has the numbers written in for the units, I think it's very clear there which ones apply to which, but what was submitted to us before they were put in didn't have the numbers in, and I think that's where the confusion comes up, is if we ignore the big plan with the handwritten numbers, and we look at what was provided to us, it goes to unit 6, then stops. So I suppose we can make the inference that it goes 7 through whatever after that, but I think that might be where some of the confusion kicked in.
Is there a reason why you didn't put that? Ms. McGrath had to put the numbers in for us.
I understand.
But I mean, aside from that, I have no issue with it aside from that.
Yep. Ms. Daigle?
Good evening again, board members. Julie Daigle, Ward 4 City Councilor. I'm just here to represent a few of the abutters who were very thorough with this application. They got the notice. They wanted to understand what was going on. They got the plan from Carla, and at this point, they have no objection to the variance for decks on the southerly side, what's before you tonight. But they did want me to mention, just for the record, moving forward, as part of the negotiation of the special permit of this whole project, that it was agreed upon that if they were to apply for decks down the road for the northerly side next to Emery Street, they would be opposed to that. But they're totally in favor. They don't see a problem with this, and I haven't heard any feedback from any abutters on the southerly side, so I just had to communicate that on their behalf. Thank you.
So I just want to say, Attorney Kelty, please, please, please try to be as thorough as possible from this point on. I would hate to think that Carla McGrath or anybody else has to fill in the blanks, or that we have to be confused because some numbers are missing. Does anybody else want to speak for or against this petition?
Just for topic of discussion, do we do with the prior one and just ask that if it's approved, that we have a revised plan, so the plan actually has the numbers on them? Just because when I look at the application, Attorney Kelty put it in there. Naturally, now I'm not going to be able to find it. It was in there. It said unit this, unit that, and it doesn't correlate with the plan. So maybe we can just have a condition that that plan will be supplemented, similar to the prior one.
How about updated?
Updated, yeah. Just to reflect the numbers. Just a thought.
Form of a motion?
No, that's not the formal motion. We all set?
We're all set, I guess.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve with the condition that the plot plan will be revised to reflect the unit numbers from 7 through 14.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You're all set. 2-minute recess. Thank you. 2-minute recess. And just 2 minutes.
Yeah. Sushi closes at 9. No.
So Tamara staying on tonight?
No. This is Helen Road.
Take care. All right, number 12?
Okay, here we go, number 12. What is it, Herald? 2 Herald Road.
Number 12 is the application of Mira and Valdir DeSantos for a variance from the provision of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.1.5, accessory structure, as it applies to the premise known as 2 Herald Road in Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance for a shed and requires relief from shed size where 500 square feet is allowed and 515 is proposed. Rear yard setback where 10 feet is allowed and 3 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1 zoning district.
Good evening. My name is Mara dos Santos. I live on 2 Herald Road, and I'm the homeowner. I propose to install a shed 3 feet from the property line. When we purchased the house in 2020, the house came with an existing shed that was 3 feet from the property line. The yard is fully fenced with a 6-foot fence. In addition to the existing shed, we purchased the house with in-ground irrigation system. When we planned for the installation of a new shed, we accounted for the placement of the heads of the irrigation system. If the new shed is placed 10 feet from the back of our fence, this will be placed the shed on top of an in-ground irrigation system, where if the shed is placed direct next to our existing shed, we'll be able to avoid this problem. We have spoken to our abutting neighbor, and he has expressed his support in placing our new shed direct next to our pre-existing shed and with 3 feet of our shared fence. Thank you very much.
Anybody to speak in favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second. Yes.
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 Yes, you're approved.
Thank you.
And now,
We only have 140B, right?
okay, let's see. We just want to accept into the record the correspondence. 12/20/22 Caruso memo on stockpiling, 12/23/22 Horsley Witten environmental peer review, 12/27/22 Langley memo, 1/11/23 final plan set, 1/11/23 comprehensive summary with waiver list, 2/8/23 Langley memo with supporting documents.
So moved.
All in favor?
Second. Aye.
All still okay. Good. All right.
I don't have to read that.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson and members of the board. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I practice law at 40 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. I'm appearing on behalf of Trammell Crow in the capacity as the entity which is Maple Multifamily Land, SELP. We seek approval under the provisions of Chapter 40B of a comprehensive permit to issue from this City Council, from this Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm here this evening to enter into the record some material that you just did, in fact, enter into the record, but I'd like to highlight a couple of items for the record and discuss that we are, in our opinion, closed out with respect to our peer reviews. Under date of February 8th, 2023, Robert Langley supplied to the ZBA a memorandum which had identified as its subject matter 128 Newbury Street 40B project. In his 3-page letter, he states that we have had peer reviews that have taken place, and there are 5 peer reviews that are referenced in his cover letter. The stormwater management, our site plans were prepared by Allen and Major, and those plans were reviewed by Horsley Witten as to stormwater management. Attached to Mr. Langley's closeout memorandum are several back and forth discussions between Horsley Witten Group and Mr. Langley. The last, they are dated October 8th, 2022, and that is our answers with respect to their questions. And he has also included the memorandum, the second memorandum in that particular pile is dated December 23rd, 2022. And we're getting, at that point, we're getting closer. And then there's a third and final memorandum from Horsley Witten in which they respond to the only remaining issues at that time, and they close out the review. There were two issues that had been left to the discretion of the city engineer, and both of those, when I asked Bob Langley as to whether he was satisfied with responses to those two items. One was Peabody Department of Public Works should confirm that it is satisfied with the closed drainage system proposed along Winona Street, and we did agree to a condition with respect to the rebuilding of paying a sum of $100,000 to rebuild the pump station down in Johnson. That was another of the what appeared to be open items, and Bob Langley has closed those items. We have an environmental review that has been closed out. Our environmental was done by Sanborn Head. The environmental review was conducted by Horsley Witten. That is closed out under their last memo, which is in your packet, 12/23/22. Traffic actually had been closed out earlier. They were the earliest closeout. However, we did get a 12/27/22 closeout letter from World Tech. It appeared for a little while that they had been done but weren't going to give us the closeout, and they did. Ty and Bond has determined sewer capacity. It's in conjunction with their review and with review with regard to some of the review done by Horsley Witten that we have agreed that we would assist in the rebuilding of the Johnson Street pump station, which would handle our sewerage. And then Weston Sampson has essentially stated that in their January 10th, 23 response to our reviews, they have made it clear that they've closed us out too. So we believe that we are finished with our peer review. We are satisfied that we've done not only the best we can, but have provided all the answers that our peer reviewers have requested. In his memorandum of February 8th, 2023, Bob has recommended 3 conditions on page 2, and then there are 3 more conditions on page 3. The recommended condition on page 2 of his memorandum suggests that we would either contribute funds in the amount of $340,090 to the City of Peabody's general fund so that we can be participating in their I&I program, or if there was a project expense that the city wanted us to undertake, it's our intention to pay the sum of money into the general fund. There are issues, if they were to identify a project, they may have us address. There are issues with respect to contracting to do work offsite. So we found, not only with this client, but with most every client I've appeared before any boards with, that we will pay the sum of money. There's a recommended condition number 2 that we contribute $100,000 to upgrade the Johnson Street sewer station. We've agreed that that would be appropriate and would accept that as a condition with respect to any approval the board may be considering or be faced with down the road. And the 3 conditions that he has set forth in page 3 are actually general kind of acknowledgement. If you do this, you've got to have that permit. But there is, I think we're short of $1,500 that someone has supplied a bill that we had not seen at the time he wrote this memo. So if we're presented with that invoice, we'll happily pay it. And with that, I'm of the opinion that we're here this evening, and I know there are some neighbors here this evening that would like to speak, and we'll certainly listen to their commentary, and at the same time, we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have this evening.
I do have quite a few questions, but I'm going to hold off to see if some of the neighbors have any. And if the board has any questions, maybe you could hold off also. So at this point, instead of the board asking questions right away, I'm going to ask if there are neighbors in the audience that would like to speak on this matter, and if so, could you come up? Your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Heather Siegel DeMuro. I'm one of the owners of the Ultimate at 130 Newbury Street in Peabody. And I'm here because I know this has been an ongoing situation for us as people who have we have a beautiful shop. And we really look forward to the whole area being as beautiful as our store is. When you drive up to our store, I think we have a beautiful building with a beautiful sign outside, and it's really exciting. And then you come down our driveway and you see a dilapidated building, the old billiard lounge, with weeds overgrown and graffiti all over the place. And as a business owner, that part of it is not happy. We have done a lot with landscaping that, the city has required, and we're happy to do. We try to keep the property up looking beautifully. And, it would just really be nice if people drive up to the building, they see a beautiful building, pretty landscaping, and then they're able to drive down the driveway, and everything else follows through, whether it be a vacant area that's just kept nicely, or some other building that's there, some other business that's there that is done beautifully as well. I'm sure none of you realize, but we've actually added bridal to our repertoire of evening wear the last couple of years.
We're not here for that.
Well, I'm saying we have brides that drive in, and they're looking forward to the experience of coming into this beautiful salon and looking for their bridal gown. And we'd love to see the whole area.
So you're in
meet up.
favor of this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
May I say one other little thing? Just one other little thing, I'm sorry. But I also look forward to the fact of having people come into the community that could be our future customers. I would love that.
Definitely understand. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Hi, my name's Leanne Mayo. I live at 16 Winona Street. My name's Leanne Mayo. I live at 16 Winona Street in Peabody. I directly abut this land. Oh, my parents bought that house in 1973. Now it's mine. 15 years ago, they tore up all the land back there, and my parents flooded. My parents lost cars, their basement, their boiler, their electricity, everything multiple times from the flooding by what was caused when they dug up all that land back there. Now, the fact that they want to build back there, I think, is a wonderful thing. I think that if they do that, it'll make the land so I can look out my back door and I can see it. Right now, I can't use my backyard. My pool is a swamp from all the water we've gotten in it. It's not worth fixing. People say to me, why don't you fix it? Why don't you either fill it in? I'm like, it catches all the water that drains into my backyard. It stops my house from flooding. I still have to pump my pool every so often because I get so much water. This should alleviate most of my problems. So I'm definitely in favor of this happening.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Jack Irwin, 12 Winona Street, Peabody. I've been in front of you people quite often over this project. We've had a lot of things come and go. These people here have submitted a great plan, I think, to clean up. And I think it should be moved forward. And every time it gets delayed means more time that I'm living in dust. And you know, that doesn't affect you, but it affects me. Okay? So I'd like that to be taken into consideration, the neighbors. Thank you.
And we thoroughly understand, and I'm the first one. I believe, if you're number 12 Winona, sir, I believe my cousin grew up in that house. And I'm more than aware, and I couldn't be more upset at the way that they completely raped that land. And I don't even understand how you people could have lived like that. So yes, the reason that this gets delayed is because we're obligated as a zoning board. This comes on our lap. It doesn't come on the city council or anybody. This comes on our lap, and we have to make sure that every T is crossed, every I is dotted, and that any little thing on that plan has to be done correctly. But I thoroughly understand where you're coming from.
If I can say one more thing, the people that were making that mess originally are not involved anymore, okay? The people that are running it now are a much better company. I've met with all of them.
We certainly hope so.
I know them personally now, and I wouldn't want anybody else up there, okay? Thank you.
Ryan Cox. I live at 11 Hamrick Road. And I do have one, obviously I have lots of questions, but I'll start with one. 2 months ago, I believe it was December meeting was canceled? December meeting was the last meeting. You guys asked for what their rights were to the other parcels of land. Has that been submitted to you?
What they what?
What their rights were to the other parcels of land and what they could and could not do. Has that been provided to you?
Do you mean like the billiard hall?
Yes.
That was something I was going to ask for.
Okay. So, to be quite honest, we come here every month. We ask the same questions, and they don't follow through. I don't know why. I haven't figured it out. One of the questions I have been asking is natural gas. Has natural gas been removed from the plans?
So we're going to do something a little different tonight. You're going to stay where you are, and I'm going to try to piggyback from my questions to your questions, and we're going to see if we can move this along in a constructive way.
Absolutely.
So, on page, and I'm going to be very specific here, C102. Sorry, wait a minute, the gas. Sorry. Where was the gas? C001. It reflected gas, but on C001, it hasn't been revised. It doesn't say anything about gas. So I had that question too. Is there anywhere on these plans that reflects that there's no gas? Because I can't find it. And once again, I could be stupid tonight.
Just a general note, 627, I'll talk about gas. This project will be served by public water sewer, private natural gas. Natural gas
but
is in there.
is that new? Is that the revised plan?
That's the revised plan.
Okay, move over, please.
Also 27.
Okay, so the revised plan reflects gas. We've been told months ago that there'd be no gas. So let's deal with that now.
Sure. For the record, Nick Delacava, civil engineer with Allen & Major Associates. There is no proposed gas on this development site. If you refer to sheet C104, the utilities plan that shows all the proposed utilities for the development, there is no gas. There's no connection to the gas in Winona. There's no gas mains coming into our site. Any mention of gas on sheet C001, that's an abbreviations and notes sheet. It's a typical note that we have on a lot of our plans, if not all of our plans. It would be referred to if there was gas being proposed on the design plan itself. There is no design plan that shows gas.
So Ryan, tell me again did you read that on the plan?
Yeah, it's right there. So the other concern that I have
Do you see it?
is, I'll point it out.
Okay.
So way back when 220 units was proposed and everything, everyone said to go look at the other sites, which I did. Talked to all the neighbors in Billerica. And when I talked to them, what happened there was basically they half developed it and sold it. That's what I was told by many of the neighbors. So my concern is these are all in the notes. They're in the specifications. If there's no gas, just remove it. All I'm asking is to understand 100% what is being done.
Let me tell you something. You can tell Carla if you can't find it tonight, but the plans will be revised before we approve this, because if it says gas has to be taken out of anything.
They can use gas if they want to use gas. Just
But
so why is it on general notes? Okay, I'm just saying in general notes. So my question is, legally, if you were to sell these plans, they would be allowed to put gas in. It's in the specifications. It's in the general notes.
okay, so I will look at the general notes, and the other board members will, and that will be taken out before it gets approved.
Okay. If they want to use gas, fine. It's going to impact the company.
Because there's no gas.
Right, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this. What I'm saying is these are, was it C104 is the utility? So if the utility plan doesn't show, and I'm not trying to be like obstinate with you here.
No, I understand that the utility plan doesn't show it. But if there is an issue and someone says, hey, this is gas, you refer back to the notes, the general notes. So if they were to sell the plans, legally, someone could say, hey, there's gas in the general notes. We want to now put gas in. So just remove it. That's all I'm asking.
No, I understand. I'm just saying I don't think they could because C104 says they can't.
Do we know what note it is exactly on the general notes? Can you point it out so I can read
General
it?
6.
And 27.
General 6, 27, utility notes 3, 16, 25, drawing C109, contractile estimate, do pits.
So general note number 6 says the project will be serviced by public water and sewer and private natural gas, telephone, cable, and electric. All utility lines will be installed underground unless otherwise noted. It is under the general note section. That is a very general note. Any gas is going to be serviced by a private utility provider. It's not municipal. That's all the note is.
So just remove it.
We can remove it if the board would like.
Sorry.
If the board decides that note, if you prefer to have that note removed, we can simply remove it. There's no right to install gas on a design plan that does not show gas as part of the design. It is simply a note.
May I say something? So if these plans are approved, general notes allows gas. Legally, someone could say, I think this is a gas line. You refer to the notes, gas can be put in.
Okay, so how about this, Carla?
Number 6, 27, and general notes. Drawing utility notes 3, 16, and 25. I understand that they're all 3, 16, and 25. Yep. So I understand that they're just general notes, but if the developer was to sell it at some point, the new buyer could then go and look at general notes and would have the right to do those certain things.
I disagree, but I understand where you're coming from.
Okay, you can disagree, but I've seen. So if there's a conflict, can I, sorry.
That's okay. There's a group of general notes that also, they work as an index or definitions. So that's all it is. And then the practical application is in the actual engineering design plans. That's just how it works, but.
Through the chair, if I could just ask, my house is heated by natural gas. Does this board have a problem with any development being heated by natural gas?
But they said it wasn't. They said there was going to be no gas.
And it reflects in their energy plan. So even if they sold the house, sold it, and they said, all right, we want to use natural gas, is the city of Peabody against that development using natural gas?
No, and the board obviously isn't, but what they would have to do is they'd have to then revise the utility plan and get our permission to do so. So.
I'm not opposed to natural gas. Where natural gas was once shown, it's not accessible, so it would impact more neighbors. All I want is the plans to reflect what they said they're going to do, okay? And one of the other things that was brought up was the whole planting schedule, as far as what's going to be planted. Now, if you look, you can tell me it's a general note again, L501, all right? There's nothing that shows what is going to be planted first or afterwards. The only note that is in there says, no plant material shall be installed until all grading and construction has been completed in areas, and trees noted as selected specimens shall be tagged by landscape architect. So there's nothing in the plan that says that cardigan will be planted first. It just says upon completion of that area. So my question is, if you're going to do that, just submit it in writing. It's very simple. I mean, you guys have asked for certain things and it just hasn't been done. And then the other thing I have a question, I think it's the same drawing, L101, shows a vinyl fence, and then it shows gates in the vinyl fence that you would be able to access the easement areas. You know, my concern is that people would then use those gates to walk in behind the fence, let their dogs run or whatnot. That's not really what that area is for. And that was brought up when I went to Bill Ricca, that, you know, the fence doesn't span the whole property, so people walk their dogs around and let them run in the woods, you know? I'm not against it, I'm just, nothing has really been.
I don't like gates there. See, the gates are either there for a complete barrier or not. I mean, I missed that one.
Yeah, I'm not against it, I'm not here. I just want to have a full understanding so everyone in the neighborhood knows what is actually going in. That's all.
I don't want those fences. I mean, I don't think that's right. And that's a legitimate point. Yeah. Of course, I want the fences, but I mean, that lends itself to destruction and people going in and out, and yeah, no, I don't like that. I don't want the gates. That's just me. I'm only one vote.
No, those are just some of the concerns that I have. Basically, I'm just asking, and then I did read the note. I didn't ask, or when we were on site, I asked about the stockpile of material that was on that site. I didn't ask about what was stored at Circle LLC. That wasn't the question that I asked.
The soil?
Yes.
That's in my notes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. So, yeah. First things first. So, it might be silly of me to ask for this, but I wanted to see the soil manifest also, not just a letter from Ralph Caruso saying that everything is fine and dandy. And I know that before you build, the soil has to be tested, but just say the soil is so toxic and there's so much riprap or hot top or whatever, God knows, I don't even know, tanks buried in there. I'm not saying there is, that the builders might change their mind and say, it's too expensive. I asked for a soil manifest, and I got a letter saying everything was fine. I would still like to see that soil manifest. And I thought we asked for a purchase and sales agreement to see what the verbiage was about that billiard hall. You know, whose responsibility, you tell me whose responsibility it is, but the difference here with 40Bs is things have to be proven. I would like to see it in writing. We talked about the gas. On C102, so it says front yard setback, and then there's this area that abuts Winona Street. So is it a retention pond? Is it going to remain there? Was that going to be used as an access road? Is there a gate there? Was there a gate there? Are you going to put a gate there? What is this? Please tell me.
Sure. Yeah, that will be a retention pond for stormwater management.
Okay, does it say
There is no
it
access
somewhere?
road proposed through Winona.
But does it say it's going to stay a retention pond? Does it say it somewhere here and I missed
There
it?
is an existing pond there where it will be modified and improved to manage the new stormwater runoff that will be generated from the site. And this sheet C102 is a layout and materials plan, so it wouldn't show the grading of that pond. If you flip to sheet C103, the next sheet, it calls out the infiltration basin number 1 in that location.
So that answers my question? Does it say anywhere that you won't be able to access the property anyway? There's not going to be a big gate or anything like that?
No.
Okay. So here we go.
In fact, that issue was actually vetted with the fire department as to, I had thought that perhaps they would want to access from Winona, and Captain Nixon
Said no.
so no.
Okay, back to C102. So, explain something to me. You have here off-street parking, total required 420, total provided 310. So, where are you going to put the overflow of parking? Say you have it. Here's a thought. And are you going to put any signs on Winona Street that reflect no parking? Well, there'll never be any over.
We have no access to our property from Winona.
Right.
We're not involved with Winona, and if there is some need for signs out there, but we didn't, our access is from Route 1 right up the middle of the lots that are in front of us. So we see no need, nor has anybody in the traffic report suggested that there be no parking. If that's something that the board would like to see for whatever reason, we could do so, but that would be in the form of a condition.
All right, so explain, total required parking spaces of 420, you've got 310. That's a difference of 110.
If I could address the board.
Yep.
So my name's Andy Huntoon. I'm with Trammell Crow Residential. I'm the developer on this this proposed project. And so the Peabody zoning bylaws require 2 parking spaces per unit. That's just sort of the, right. So that's the standard. When we build apartment buildings similar to what's proposed on this apartment building, we look at the demand that we're actually going to have for parking based upon the unit mix that we're going to build. So the ratio of 1 beds, 2 beds, studios, and 3 beds and the like. And then we program the development so that it'll have the right amount of parking to meet the demand that we project based off past experience with prior projects, so that we're not going to have a parking shortage. And so the deficit that you mentioned there is a deficit versus the base code. So in our waiver list, one of the waivers would be to reduce the parking amount down to what we're proposing to build, such that we'll provide the amount of parking that we think is the right amount of parking to build, so that we're not building a giant sea of additional parking that won't get used. And so that's what's going on with that one, ma'am.
I have to think about that a little bit more. How about dumpsters? Where are they? All I see here is a compactor. I don't see dumpsters, and I don't see that it reflects, are they enclosed, are they fenced in, and where are they?
Yeah, so where you see that compactor location at the southeast corner of the site, that's an enclosed structure. It'll have a compactor in there. There's a sidewalk or a walkway that leads up that residents, they can park next to it, walk over up the walkway, and dump the trash into the compactor. And there's also a recycling enclosure just next to it.
And the compactor is the dumpster, it doubles.
Yes, the compactor is the dumpster.
So, one compact dumpster for 180 units.
It's not a compact dumpster, it's a compactor, so...
One compactor for 180 units.
So if you ever go to like retail stores and you see on the back or the side of the retail buildings, they've got those big compactors that stick off the side of the building, and it's a dumpster also, but it's a compactor in it. And so as you put trash in it, it compacts it, and we get them emptied out as frequently as necessary so that they don't overflow. So it can get picked up more than, they always do. They get picked up more than once a week, and you adjust the pickup schedule based on how much the trash is being used. And so, during the holidays where people might have a lot more trash to throw out, you probably we're scheduling extra poles to keep the property cleaned up. But you manage the collections with frequency of pickups, where they come out and they just basically take the whole compactor, put it on they deliver you a new one, they take the full one, and they just swap them out that way.
Is it dangerous?
In what aspect, ma'am?
Well, I because I have no familiarity with this, and like when you just throw your trash in.
Yeah, there's a kind of a door on the side. You just throw your trash in the door, but they're safe. You'd never.
And who would be the person that makes the decision to empty this more than once a week?
Well, the management staff schedules the frequency of the pickups for the trash compactor / dumpster.
Okay,
So effectively, we do. The ownership does.
Okay. All right. Snow removal. Is that C-105? In fact, I like mine better.
C-105 is the lighting plan. The snow storage plan is shown on sheet C-107. C-107. And what the plan describes is locations where snow could be stockpiled until the accumulated snow becomes a hazard to the daily operations of the site. And at that point, it would be trucked off.
So, this is where you have snow storage, right here?
Yes.
And
Any of the hatched areas.
It's all the backside here too, right?
Yep. Yeah, if you look at the legend, it shows snow storage with the hatch, that any of the hatch squares around the site.
And snow shall be stockpiled on site in locations shown until the accumulated snow becomes a hazard to the daily operations of the site. Who decides when it becomes a hazard?
It would interrupt the daily operations of the site when you start stockpiling snow in parking spaces. That interferes with residents from having a space to park.
There's another question. Where you're putting this snow, doesn't it interfere with parking?
No.
Did you You ever think of taking it off-site?
Yes, when it becomes a interference with daily operations.
That's very vague. That leads to misinterpretation or somebody's interpretation different from
Well,
everybody else's.
it's difficult to predict, every snowfall. In an occasion where you get 1 or 2 inches, you can. Well, this is a great winter. I mean, we've had hardly any snow. But some years you get feet of snow and you become overwhelmed with snow, and that's when you would truck it off.
Yeah, there was something else. C-104. Back to C-104. And you thought you went through this, Ryan. There's a transformer up here on the corner. Proposed transformer with whatever that word is. Final size and location to be determined by utility provider. Is that going to make buzzing noises?
Peabody Municipal Light.
I don't know what their transformers are.
No, nothing more noticeable than any normal transformer. It's a transformer. You need a transformer for the project, and
Does Sonic have a transformer? Sonic, the one they just built, Dearborn Road. I mean, I don't know what a transformer is.
Yes, transformers are on the
Yeah.
basis of whatever the power, whatever the available power, and then you're transforming it from one form of power to another for use in the
Yeah.
individuals.
So
So that's Peabody Municipal Light will
Jack, he's
tell
going to
us.
describe what it looks like.
You've probably seen them on the side of the road. They're the big green boxes, typically on a concrete pad with the yellow metal or concrete poles in front of them. Those are the bollards.
Okay, so the accessory structures. Do you see, what page are they on? Do you see? So I don't have
Are you referring to the architectural drawings?
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with them.
I made a mess out of mine.
Must be talking about the garages.
Are you
The
referring to the
height,
garages?
The height, yeah, the height of those accessory structures. It says 22 feet?
That's correct.
So how come not 20? I mean, why like 22?
Do you know the answer to that?
It's because they're pitched roofs, and so the roof, the pitch of the roof we want it to be steep enough so that it, for a lot of different reasons, and so they're 22 feet. That's just how they
So
get designed and built.
Those are all garages?
Yes, ma'am, that's right.
How many of them are there?
There's 6 total. 6 total garages for 30 total garage spaces.
What they look like outside is just is there a drawing in here? I forget. I think so. Well, it's a building that's 22 feet high with a pitched asphalt black shingle roof on top, and there's 5 garages in a line on the parking lot side of it, and then it's just got siding on the other 3 sides of it. And within the garage buildings, each garage is hung with sheetrock, so they're separated individually from each other garage. So when you open up your garage door, you could drive your car in, and you'd have basically they're generally painted white, like a white box that you drive in and park your car.
dog park?
The dog park is located on the eastern side of the property. It's just at the end of the driveway that splits between Building 1 and Building 2.
If you look on any of the overall site plan layout plans, we're looking at L101, but
Yeah,
a bunch of them.
yeah, either L101 or sheet C102.
And then it's sort of the bottom of the plan between where the two buildings are. Yeah, so sort of between the two buildings, there's a drive aisle, and at the bottom of the drive aisle, there's kind of it's not quite a triangular, it's not quite triangular, but I don't know how else to describe it, area there for a dog park.
So, back to my beginning questions. Do you actually have soil testing information?
All of the land that Trammell Crow is buying has been thoroughly vetted with respect to soil analysis, et cetera. The question that was raised was on land not owned by us. I was able to determine that that one pile was brought there by Caruso, and that's why we responded in the fashion we did. The soil samples that we're taking of the land that is under this have all been shared with, reviewed by Sanborn Head, and then all of those studies have been reviewed by Horsley Witten, and they're referenced in tonight's closeout correspondence. I think they're the second Horsley Witten reference. It's one with their letterhead on it, but that is all the soils. And attached to it is the Sanborn Head information. So yes, to answer your question very directly and simply, have there been soil samples taken of the entire site? Yes.
Do we, what? Yeah, can we see them? Do you have them? They've been taken, yes. I don't know they've been taken.
Yes, and they were shared with and references made to them through our peer review.
About a purchase and sale that...
And you've got the results of the peer review, which reference through Sanborn Head makes their findings, and then they're reviewed by Horsley Witten, and then we eventually get closed out by...
Say it.
Through the chair, it references that you should have a letter from the licensed site professional with all those results. Is that true?
Can I take this one? I know more about it. So, you know, as to environmental, so obviously there's some dirt piles that are on site, you know, and those will need to be removed. We've done a lot of testing. Sanborn Head is our license. There's a person at Sanborn Head, the firm, and that person is a licensed site professional, licensed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to do environmental work. And so her name's Tricia Pinto. So Tricia has done a lot of the environmental work for us on this and helped us get comfortable that there are no environmental hazards that we're concerned about here. For any dirt that we would need to export off-site, and whenever you build, there's always dirt that has to be removed from the site and sent somewhere. And as part of the Massachusetts Contingency Plan, the MCP, which is effectively the state law that is administered by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, before we can ship anything off-site, we have to field test it. If there is anything in the soil, it would get sent to an appropriate facility, and if there's nothing in the soil, then it would be unclassified, and it would be sent to an unclassified facility where it could just be dumped on the ground and sort of forgotten about. And so I think it was Horsley Witten that did the environmental. I'm getting my peer reviewers mixed up. I apologize, but I believe it was Horsley Witten that did the peer review on this. And so our LSP at Sanborn Head had sent them over, and it's kind of a lot of data that's kind of I mean, I read it for a living, and I still have to pay people to help me understand it because it's complicated stuff. But I think the basic takeaway is that, you know, from LSP communicated to Horsley Witten that there isn't anything there to be worried about, that if anything gets found as we're doing construction, that we'll be bound to operate under the Massachusetts contingency plan and handle it in a legal manner, and that the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection would be the agency that would oversee that. And so, you know, we have to work within the law as relates to environmental, and we do, and that's how it's done. But you know, we don't have any concern, and we've had it peer reviewed by the peer reviewer. So I'm not sure how better to respond to the question than that. Unfortunately, I'd like to. I just don't know how. Excuse me.
Do you have a purchase and sales agreement that says something about that billiard parlor? And who's going to take it down, if it's going to be taken down, when it's going to be taken down?
Red light's on, good. So as relates to the billiard parlor, so that is on a piece of land that's owned by South Pike. I think it's South Pike LLC owns it, or I forget the name of the entity, but ultimately the beneficial ownership is Richard Marchese owns that piece of land there, and he has the right to do whatever he wants with his building, and so we expect that building is likely to stay there. We don't have any right to do anything specifically to his building, so I don't know what his long-term plan is for his asset that he has there at the billiard parlor.
I thought we were told that you could tear it down.
We did. We did say that.
Yep, and so there's certain circumstances in which we could do it. I don't think that we're going to be able to tear that building down. So I think that the circumstances that we had are probably not going to be triggered that would give us an ability to take the building down.
Well, that's a problem.
Not us, but them.
Who, Marchese?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was dated, December 23rd. As far as soil and groundwater, I just picked up on this. Horsley Witten does not have enough information to determine if adequate due diligence has been completed by the applicant. It is unclear if any other contaminants are or could be present at the site. Am I just, no evidence of other contaminants, did not recommend further investigation, no objection to, okay, well, this is how I'd like to leave this right now, unless Ryan or anybody else has anything else to say about it. Yep. As Ryan's walking up, I'll tell you my feelings. I think that the board needs another month just to look over this, all these plans. You know, some of the plans were given not in a timely fashion, but we have them now. I need a little bit more time to look through things, as I believe some of the board members do. So, yep.
Just through the chair, I want to just go back to that, the Marchese building, the billiards. Has there been anything where anybody's approached them about possibly purchasing that? Has there been a discussion about buying that lot in order to allow you guys to conduct some kind of demolition?
There's been no discussion about buying that property because that property is really dirty. And as such, we carved out, there is a plume that emanates from that building, heads northwesterly, and there are sections of the old subdivision plan which my clients are buying 96% of it, and the areas of that old subdivision plan where it meets with Winona Street, we're not buying because they cannot pass muster for purposes of residential use. So there is plenty of material available that's with the Board of Health and with the DEP as to what the condition is in that pool building. The billiard building, we're not interested in buying it. We did have provisions in our PNS that allowed us to tear it down, but what my client is saying is those were particular conditions that related to timing, money, et cetera, and we're hopeful that they will develop a plan and take down the building or retrofit it, whichever it is they have to do, but we are not interested in buying it.
Through the chair, I just have to comment on that. You know for a fact that that's not going to happen. That name associated with that property up there is the whole reason.
Which won't?
That people come in here crying. That name was the person that took down everything else. So that's a name that's associated negatively with that property. And a matter of fact, I think I said early on, I don't want anything to do as long as that name is still present on any of those properties up there. So I'm going to have to really seriously rethink this. Because if it's as dirty and if it's not clean, nothing's going to change. You know that that entity is not going to do anything up there. And I don't blame you for not buying it.
However, have a plan filed with the DEP, and they monitor and pump, and they are operating currently in accordance with a DEP contingency plan, which we have nothing to do with.
I understand that. But I just have a problem depending on that entity to do anything that's right.
And I have to agree with you, and if my memory serves me correctly, and I can have Ms. McGrath look back in the minutes, I believe you told us that you were going to tear it down. You would have permission to tear that down at some point. And maybe you can look that up for me at some point. But go ahead.
Sure. So I'd like to try and speak to it because I know it's a hot button. So for the, and I'll deal with them piece by piece because it's easier for me to keep it straight in my head, frankly. But for the billiards hall piece, there's a set of conditions where we would be able to have an ability to tear it down. I don't think those set of conditions are likely to come to pass. So they're probably not. So we're probably not going to have the right to tear that building down. I frankly had hoped to have the right to tear that building down. I would like nothing more than to blow it up and level it out and be done with it. But I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that. The property owner has certain rights. There's an easement that's been recorded, and he has an ability to not let us tear it down. And so I don't know that he's going to, and I can't really change it. I wish I could. I can't. As to the balance of the property, the driveway that goes in now off of Route 1, that whole area is going to get cleaned up. And so, as relates to the commercial property and the dress shop that's sort of immediately north of where the driveway goes in, that whole evolution from Route 1 into the property is going to be re-engineered and rebuilt, which is going to improve the curb appeal from US Route 1 sort of in looking into everything, which would include the dress shop and the other retail uses there. As far as the back portion of the site where the residential is proposed that we're looking at doing, right now there's some, little bushes that grow maybe kneecap high back there, maybe waist high in a few areas that if you walk out there, you're just going to get covered in bramble and thistle, and it's really not pleasant to try to pick it out of your shoelaces and your socks, but you've seen it. It's not great. And there's a big stormwater problem there. And so, our plan gets rid of that stormwater problem. So for Leanne, who came in tonight, who's worried about not being able to pump out her pool and do anything with it, this plan solves that problem. For Mr. Irwin, who's here tonight, this plan solves that problem for him as well and helps mitigate something that was really bad that was done, it was 15 or 17 years ago now. It was a long time ago. And it's been a disaster. And you're right, that one person is the one that caused the disaster. And he's not going to fix it. But if nothing happens back there, it can't get better because there's just so much to do. I mean, just the cost to build the driveway in, to do the stormwater systems, to sort of fix a lot of those historical problems, it's pretty high. And so I don't think, based on what I know about real estate, I don't think there's another use that's going to be able to come in and be able to go in bulk and fix large portions of the problem that are going to positively impact the neighbors for the things that we just discussed, from stormwater and dust and those types of things. And so once you get that driveway cleaned up off of Route 1, once you get the dust bowl on the back, it's probably about half of it cleaned up. Once you get the stormwater problems cleaned up, it makes it viable for other users to be able to then have a shot at coming in the future, because you've got horizontal infrastructure in place. You've got the utility mains for the water and the sewer and the electric and whatnot that run into the site, and other users would be able to tie into those. So it gives them a fighting chance at being able to do something. And so, that pool hall building, it's good real estate. It's a good location. Something should be able to go in there. It's not going to be able to go in there until somebody spends the money necessary to put the infrastructure in place to support development there. The other piece of land that I guess it's just to the east, it's on the southern half and to the east of where we are, which is sort of behind the pool hall building, behind the Chinese place and the Dunkin' Donuts, in that area there. That's all kind of a roughly cleared pad at this point. It's not going to get developed until the residential gets done, because there's just not enough money to pay to put the road in and all the services in. And so, and I can't deal in absolutes, but it's been 15 years of what it is today. And the likelihood of it changing without something happening is the catalyst for, transformation and growth, which is what this multifamily project will be. The likelihood of it getting better it's probably pretty close to zero, because that's what it has been for a long time. Nothing's going to be perfect. Unfortunately, I can't answer every concern that the board has. They're valid concerns. We've heard them from the abutters, from the neighbors. We hear them in other communities we work in. We do our best to try to collaboratively solve problems with people. A lot of these folks have our cell phone numbers. They can call us at home on the weekends whenever they need to talk, so that they can talk to us. Mr. Cox brought up our Bill Ricca project earlier, and just for the record, I built that project. I bought that piece of land and I built that project, and I think we did a great job on it. Somebody else had done the comprehensive permit on that one. And then we bought the site with a comprehensive permit in place, but we did actually build it. I think we did a great job putting that one in, and I think, as with anything, there's going to be a couple of people that don't like it. Go on a Yelp or a TripAdvisor. Nobody gets all 5-star reviews, but I think we do a good job. We stand behind our work. We'd really like to be able to develop this parcel. We think it's going to be the catalyst that's going to allow, there's 17 or 18 acres in total back there that needs to be fixed. And without a big infusion of capital to fix a lot of the problems, I don't know that any of the problems can get fixed. And so, we're happy to continue to work with the board. We're happy to continue to be good citizens in the neighborhood. But that's really our goal, is to try to go in there. I mean, if I lived in any of those houses next door, I'd be really upset about it. I'll use a good word. But the word I was thinking. That wasn't it. But I'd be real upset about it as well. And it would be top of mind for me to make sure that it was going to get fixed. So, we're happy to continue to try to answer questions. I can't fix everything, but we're going to try to fix as much as we can. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to have a big investment back there. We want to make it as nice as humanly possible. We're going to continue to work to make it as nice as humanly possible. It's selfishly, it's in our best interest to do so. You wouldn't want to own a big building like that and not try to make the neighborhood the best you could. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for that answer.
Yes, sir.
And I don't want to give you the impression that, we're negative on this, because we're not. But like I said before, we have an obligation as a board to go through the things. I mean, this is, I don't know what number, 5 or 6, 40B before us. And, because of the neighbors and because you're coming before us with such a big plan, we do have to make sure that, it meets with what we know. Before I forget it, I do need for you to go back into the plan and take those gates off the fence in the back. Take those off, please. So, sir, do you want to talk again?
As far as the soil goes up there, this board approved every bit of soil that's up there, okay? It all came out of the MWRA, and it was all tested. Okay?
We don't touch that, sir. And if that's what you
The
want to say, I'm going to have to
MWRA
stop. Don't argue with me.
I'm not arguing with you,
Well,
but
I'm
the
gonna cut you off.
MWRA, can I speak?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Don't tell us that this board...
I'm just telling you that the MWRA tested all that soil that's up in my backyard, okay? And it all tested clean, according to the city.
Okay, but we're not the
So for you to
city.
say that there's contamination up there now, it's kind of baffling me. I'm wondering why am I finding this out now?
Sir, we don't, we're zoning board. We don't handle soil.
Somebody in this city
Maybe somebody in this city.
approved
There
that
are-
dirt being dumped in my backyard, and I see
understand,
your
but you-
sediments exactly. The guy that dumped it up there, we
Right,
don't want
we-
to talk about him,
sir.
okay?
We get it. We understand, and I'd be upset too if that was my backyard. But this board of these people here have nothing to do with that. So
Okay,
please don't come pointing a
but
finger
I'm
at
just
us that
saying,
we
there's
did it.
somewhere in the city, there's a record that that soil's clean.
That you're-
So why are we keeping this project held up again? This is what I'm talking about. It's stuff like this. I'm sorry, that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Ryan?
Sorry, on the gates, we would like to keep some gates just for maintenance staff to be able to get around on the property. We're happy to have a condition that they would be locked and only used for property maintenance, but we do need to have gates to be able to access the property for the staff.
But don't they abut somebody's backyard?
No, they're set.
What?
The entrance to the gate. If you want to explain what the entrance to the gate is, it's great.
Is that the only one?
It's the only one, I believe.
Yeah, so there's because there's two fences, right? There's that fence that goes this way, right?
The fence runs all the way along.
And then
the
it runs,
property.
but this fence is angled and it comes out to here. Is that where that fence goes?
Yep.
And so it's really, because this is a retaining wall here and it's a fence to keep people from going that way, right? So there's the fence that's on the, sorry, I'm gonna do the best I can here. Bear with me, I'm sorry. There's the fence that runs along the western property line. I don't believe there's any gates in there. We'll double check. I don't think there are. There's a fence that's right here that has a gate that opens up from, and this is the gate that we need to keep because this is, we have, our staff has to be able to kind of be able to move freely around the property. Okay. L101 is what I was looking at.
So, two questions. One being the retention pond. I was kind of confused. It kind of looks like it's staying now and not being filled in. That's kind of, before it was filled in, now it seems like the retention pond is staying, or?
No, so there is an existing pond there right now. It's disheveled. It's falling apart. What we're going to be doing is completely reshaping it and actually increasing the size of it. So it is staying. It's always stayed. We need that for stormwater management. It's always been proposed since the very beginning.
Okay, last meeting, it was that the billiards hall was to be demoed and that was to be filled in, backfilled in. So, okay, yep. Yep. And then the only other question I had was in reference to the Johnson Street pump station. There was going to be $100,000 allocated. Is that all that it's going to cost to repair that, or is it more? And if it is more, would that fall on the taxpayers, or how is that going to be? Who came up? I'm just curious. Is there a plan that is saying that it only needs $100,000, or is it going to be in excess of $100,000?
Well,
And
I
where
would,
that come
I would think that the city engineer probably would have that answer, and if we don't have it tonight, we will have it for you next month. Do we have that answer?
The rebuilding of this particular pump, it is expected as of like a month ago, as comparing a rebuild of another pump of similar size, similar problems. It was estimated that that could be done for $100,000. Bob has, Mr. Langley has referred to it as a contribution, and he refers to it further as contribute funds to upgrade the pump station. If it remains at $100,000, we'll do it. If it ends up that by now it's more than that, we'll be contributing $100,000 towards the eventual.
Okay, so Ryan, are you all set right now? Everybody else all set? Okay, well, I think we just need a little more time to digest all of this and to make this perfect, or as perfect as we can. So I would like you to continue this till March 20th. Okay, so we'll see this back March 20th, and with bells and whistles on, I certainly hope. At this point in time, I need just to have a motion to accept correspondence from Tanwright, 12/21/22 World Tech Traffic Peer Review, 12/22/22 Langley Memo, 12/23/22 Tie and Bond Sewer Capacity Peer Review, and 12/27/22 Langley Memo.
So moved.
All in favor? I need to accept the minutes from which month?
December?
December? Oh, November and December?
So moved.
All in favor? There is a 40B application revision that was in your packet for you to look at. Do we have to accept that? Please accept it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any other matters? The J.B. Raymond? 39 Wallace Street would like to continue till next month.
So moved.
Second, so move, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think we're done?
Yep.
Yes? Thank you, everybody. It's been a little bit of a long night, but very productive. I appreciate it. Adjourned.
Thank you. Yeah, Ryan's good. Oh, I know. A little salty.
I'm sorry, Stephen, it was so late.
You knew it was going to happen. We had the last one.
I tried. I went, well, really, really quickly.
No, wasn't bad.